Ageist attitudes see older adults as primarily deteriorating bodies that have limited value. Programs and services are consistent with the belief that older adults are simply irreversibly deteriorating. The idea that elders are much more than just an older physical plant is largely missed. There is little recognition that elders are spiritual beings with the most experience of anyone on earth, the most insight about life, and that they often have a rich network of relationships through which they influence the world on a continuous basis. The prejudice of ageism is not harmless. It permeates over every corner of our society and makes a real difference in the lives of real people. It limits the potential of elders and has a significant and costly negative impact on society as a whole. Dr. Adrienne Ball, age 68, had a long and distinguished career as a practicing physician and a professor in a noted medical school. She had accumulated enough wealth for retirement, so she wanted to give back. As a board-certified internist, she knew her medical skills had great value. Moving from her home in Chicago to a new home in sunny Florida, she became appropriately licensed, then presented herself to the local hospital to volunteer in whatever way would be most helpful. The hospital administrator met with her and promised to call her in a few days. When Dr. Ball went back to meet with the administrator, she was offered 2 ways to volunteer: stuff the envelopes for the upcoming building fund campaign, or work a day a week in the gift shop. Fortunately, Dr. Ball didn't let the ageist attitude of the hospital administrator slow her down. She joined forces with 2 other retired physicians and started a state-of-the-art medical clinic for the uninsured. Their work has received national recognition.
Unfortunately, ageism influences what happens in the workplace for both paid and volunteer positions. Though there are laws against discrimination on the basis of age in the workplace, biased beliefs about the abilities and potential of elder workers are very much present. This can often result in the failure to identify and fully utilize the skills and talents of years of experience that older workers bring to the job. It can also be very discouraging to the older worker, who begins to wonder if he or she still has anything to contribute.
Ageism has been found to be present among physicians, nurses, and therapists at the same levels that are present in the society as a whole.
We physicians and other healthcare providers have a tendency to simply label the common problems of older people, such as balance difficulties, falls, incontinence, memory loss, or depression, as just due to advanced age, instead of viewing them as treatable medical conditions. Unfortunately, these days, physicians are spread so thin and have so little time to see anyone, especially those who may have one or more serious conditions. Consequently, they are often inadvertently influenced by their biased beliefs about aging, limiting what they see as treatment options and limiting the potential of elders in the process.
Cognitive impairment in elders is one example of the way a prejudiced, preset, and biased understanding can have a serious negative impact on an elder's life. Cora Jackson was 88 years old. She was active in her Sunday school class, loved working in her garden, and regularly volunteered at the elementary school down the block. Her son lived in another state and came to visit Cora about twice a year. One morning, the son got a call from Cora's neighbor that she was wandering the neighborhood after dark, disheveled and confused. The son immediately caught a plane to Cora's city. He couldn't get an appointment with Cora's usual doctor for at least a month, so he took Cora to a local walk-in clinic. Taking the son aside, the well-meaning doctor told him that it was likely Cora was sundowning, a symptom of dementia. It would probably be a good idea to find a locked memory loss unit for Cora so that she would not be at risk of wandering. Cora's son followed the advice, and in less than 48 hours, Cora had been moved to Memory Loss Gardens, where she was locked away, and where there was no garden. In actuality, Cora had a hard-to-diagnose urinary tract infection that had caused her behavior. It was something that could have easily been successfully treated, enabling Cora to continue the full, productive, and independent life she was enjoying. Instead, she remains at Memory Loss Gardens, just in case she might wander again.
There are a host of factors that can result in cognitive problems that are typically reversible. Among these, medications, anesthesia, infections, hearing loss, depression, dehydration, vitamin B12 deficiencies, and a host of other factors. Unfortunately, society's prejudice that assumes it's normal for elders to become confused becomes a preset that labels behaviors as dementia and then fails to adequately search for other causes. To properly diagnose dementia requires a battery of standardized neuropsychological tests, not just a screening test such as the popular MMSE. Usually, these are administered after all other medical problems have been ruled out. Unfortunately, many elders end up incarcerated in locked memory loss units where they continue to deteriorate from a lack of appropriate treatment or adequate stimulation. What's particularly troubling is that amongst the people who do have dementia, they often do not have a consistent problem of wandering. They can easily be helped to get accustomed to a routine with the right cueing and support. Instead, they are incarcerated for life unnecessarily.
James Johnson was 86 years old. He had always been active in his senior apartment complex and was very involved as a top fundraiser in his Masonic Lodge. He loved to take walks around the neighborhood and was well known by all of his neighbors who loved to chat with him. One day he tripped over a bump in the sidewalk, fell and broke his hip, and required surgery. He was transferred from the hospital to a skilled nursing unit for rehabilitation. James and the physical therapist there didn't hit it off very well. James thought she was condescending and treated him like a child. The therapist thought James was uncooperative and a poor candidate for improvement. His son was advised that James needed to permanently remain in one of their long-term care beds and was destined to be confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life.